It was last week when we learned the details of how Trump appointee Jeff Clark at the Justice Department had written a letter to the Republican-run state legislature in Georgia. His letter advised them that the Justice Department was investigating some kind of serious problem in the election in Georgia. The letter further advised them that the Georgia legislature should convene itself into a special session to consider changing the state's election results, to send electors for Trump to the Electoral College instead of electors for Biden, even though Biden actually won. Now, that letter was not sent because the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General at the time refused Jeff Clark's demand that they sign it. That apparently resulted in a showdown where Trump tried to install Jeff Clark as Attorney General himself, which would have meant, among other things, that he definitely could have signed and sent that letter himself. And, as you know, the disturbing thing about this revelation of this plot over the last few weeks is that, had that letter actually been sent, it is more than imaginable that Republicans in the Georgia state legislature would have said, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's at least try it. Right? It was an official request, almost a demand from the U.S. Justice Department that they reconvene themselves and consider their electoral college, consider their slate of electors they were sending to the Electoral College. And if they wanted to do it, they had the backup of the U.S. Justice Department claiming that something went terribly wrong with the election. You think they wouldn't have done it? I mean, Trump thought they would do it. We know from notes taken by one Justice Department official during this time period that Trump believed the Georgia legislature was, quote, on our side and would definitely do it. This wasn't a fantasy. This was a real plot. So as I said, we've been covering this pretty intensively this week and over the last couple of weeks. A couple of developments to tell you about tonight. First of all, and this is exclusive here, we can report tonight that these new revelations about the post-election Trump plot in Georgia, this effort spearheaded by Trump Justice Department official Jeff Clark to get Georgia Republicans to effectively nullify the election result. We can report tonight that according to a person familiar with the investigation, these new revelations, this new reporting about how Trump and Jeff Clark apparently targeted Georgia in this plot, those new revelations are considered, quote, relevant and useful by the investigators in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office who have opened a criminal investigation into President Trump's alleged efforts to interfere with elections officials in Georgia after the November election. Again, that is an ongoing criminal investigation led by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. There have been some recent vague reports that the criminal investigation in that office into President Trump's actions after the election in Georgia, that investigation might have been cooling off or might have been put on the back burner somehow. We do not believe that is the case. And again, according to a person familiar with the investigation, the new recent revelations about details of the plot against Georgia's election results, those newly reported details are considered, quote, relevant and useful to the case that is being assembled by that prosecutor's office. So that is one thing you need to know. The other thing to know is that the former U.S. attorney in Georgia, the top federal prosecutor in Georgia, a man named B.J. Pack, who suddenly and mysteriously resigned without explanation right in the middle of Trump and Jeff Clark apparently trying to enact this plot in Georgia. As we know, B.J. Pack this week testified to the Judiciary Committee in the Senate as part of their investigation into this same series of events. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution now reports that after his Senate testimony this week, B.J. Pack is also expected to testify to the January 6th Select Committee that is investigating the post-election coup attempt. And the AJC also reports that B.J. Pack is expected to speak with investigators from the U.S. Justice Department. I should tell you, B.J. Pack and his testimony on this matter were also invoked this week by Georgia Democrats who right now are trying to sound the alarm, trying to sound a national alarm about Republican efforts in Georgia to use these false fraud claims Trump has been making about the Georgia election, to use those false claims even now to justify right now a partisan Republican takeover of the administration of elections in Georgia's largest county, Fulton County, which of course is a diverse, dynamic, and very Democratic stronghold in that state.
Former U.S. Attorney Republican B.J. Pack provided hours of testimony to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. In his testimony, he reaffirmed that investigations into Fulton County by state officials and the FBI did not yield any evidence of voter fraud. It simply does not exist. Republicans are acting in bad faith because they did not like the results of the election.
That's Georgia Democratic State Representative Bee Nguyen, who this week stood with her Democratic colleagues from the State House and the State Senate and from Fulton County to try to sound an alarm about Georgia Republicans using the new powers they gave themselves in their new anti-voting law they passed after the November elections. They're using those new powers to try to mount a partisan Republican takeover of the administration of elections in Georgia's largest Democratic county.
When Republican lawmakers passed Senate Bill 202 earlier this year, we knew that the state takeover provision was the most dangerous provision in this bill. And we knew that provision was specifically aimed at Fulton County, the most populous county and one of the most diverse counties in Georgia. This is a partisan power grab.
There was no fraud and there was no malfeasance in Fulton's election administration. This is just a political sham to demonstrate fealty to Trump and his big lie about the election because they cannot accept the results. We will do everything we can to fight this partisan and unnecessary takeover attempt of the Fulton Election Board.
I am here today to specifically address the attempt to take over the local county elections board of Fulton County. I want to start specifically by talking about what we need to know about the takeover provisions. This isn't just about triggering some kind of investigation. The state election board now under SB 202 can, on its own motion alone, take over the local election board in Fulton County.